Hey guys, what's up? My name is Mayank, and in this video, I'm gonna walk you through my process of generating leads from clutch.co. Uh, so, if you're somebody who has a service or a product that you think these agency owners would be interested in, or your target audience happens to be agency owners or agencies in particular, uh, this is the process that I think you'll find very beneficial, because I've not seen a lot of people do account based prospecting very precisely. And this process is something that I've been using for a long time now, and I think you'll find it useful. The tools that we need in this process are Google Sheets, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, and Data Chroma. You would also need an email extractor or an email finder. I would suggest using Snowvio or Hunter.io or Find That Lead, and an email verifier. I would suggest using Neverbounce for that matter. Anyway, so the process, the high level process looks like this. You would first go to clutch.co and create your audience there. So you'll put a lot of filters that I'm looking for these kind of companies or these kind of agencies in this region charging X amount of money by the hour. And then you'll create a search on clutch.co, and then you'll use data chroma to extract that search. And I'll elaborate on the following points once we start the process. So let's quickly jump to clutch.co and let's see what we can do. So for this example, I'm gonna go and find SEO agencies. Uh, let's say in the California region. And so I've already put two filters: the country is United States and the state is California. Let's say if we can put a budget filter too. Let's put one more filter, and let's say these are the companies that I want to reach out to. It starts from here, and for each company, now when you want to reach out to these companies, what we need is we need the work email address of the founder or anybody else in that company. And here on clutch.co, what we get is on this one particular listing, we have the company's name, we have the company's website, their phone number, their map location, their hourly pricing, their description, and their internal clutch page. But we don't get the company's LinkedIn account. Why we need the company's LinkedIn account is because uh, LinkedIn happens to be the platform that gives us the high level view into the employees of that company. And once we find the employee or the target person that we want to reach out to, we can use a tool like Hunter, Snowvio, or Find That Lead to find that person's email address. So the idea is when we want to go and find the person's email address, but right now we're stuck at the company's domain here. So in step one, we want to scrape this search. So for each company, I want the company's name, the company's website, the company's address, their phone number, their hourly pricing, and all the information that we had inside this page. So to scrape this particular search, and this search has 490 firms. So let's say we see on the bottom of the page, you'll see pagination here, and on each page there are around 50 companies. So let's say we in step one, we want to scrape this search results and find all the information about these individual companies. For this, we'll go to datachroma.com and log in. And you can sign up for the free account by going to the website datachroma.com and start using the platform. We'll go to modules and click on clutch. Now we'll click on we'll select this module called clutch search query scraper. We'll click on documentation, and you'll find the documentation here along with the steps to use this module. And let's see what the output we can get from here. We'll get the listing name, the listing clutch profile URL. So let's say for this one particular listing, we'll get the listing name, the listing clutch profile URL, the listing website URL. Okay, then we'll get the tagline, the listing description, review rating, the reviews count, the project size, the average hourly rate, the phone number, and so on. So let's click on use this module. And by the way, we're right now on the first step of this process, which is scraping clutch.co for listing information. And after once we click the use this module button, we'll land on this particular page. Here you'll give this module a name. So we're trying to scrape SEO agencies California page 1. I'm writing page 1 because I'm going to scrape the first page of this search. The first page has around, each page has 50 companies. So for this video, I'm just going to scrape the first 50 companies to show you guys the process. But you can scrape as many companies or as many pages as you want. Let's enter the clutch search query URL. So under this column, under this field, we're going to copy this particular field, this URL, and copy this. So whenever you make a search inside clutch, just copy the final URL from here and go to the form and paste it here. And next you need to enter the number of search result pages to scrape. So like I mentioned that each page on clutch has 50 listings, and I'm gonna just scrape the first 50 listing, or that means one page. So I'm gonna enter 1 here. In case you wanted to scrape 200 companies, you'll enter 4 here because 50 into 4 equals 200. Next you'll enter the email address where you want the result file to be sent. So once this module completes the operation, you'll get the result file on your email address. Let's click on next to launch this module. And once you land on this particular page, let's click on run. Once the model will start running, you'll see logs getting generated here, and it has started scraping these companies, which takes us to our step 1. The module that we have used is clutch search scraper, and the output that we'll get here, or we'll get a couple of fields for each company. The output field that we're looking for is the company domain, because we'll use this particular output field, this company domain, to find the company's LinkedIn profile next, which is our step 2. So I'm going to write down the steps here in a different manner. So we're first finding scraping clutch.co, and then we want find company LinkedIn URL from company website. That becomes a step 2. So we're almost done with scraping page 1, and the idea is post this we'll then convert LinkedIn URL to sales navigator URL, account URL. Okay, so our step 1 is complete. You'll see the logs mentioning that the scraping has been completed. We'll click on result. And by the way, this process does not require you to put any kind of proxy, because we have put a central proxy on the global platform. So all that has been taken care of. Clutch new scrape, or SEO agencies scrape results. Let's go to a sheet. So you can create a new Google sheet. I've already made one, and we're going to use this one particular sheet for all the automations that we'll do in this particular video or for this process. Let's click on file and let's click on import. Click on upload and upload this particular CSV that we just downloaded. Let's click on append to current sheet and import data. Okay, so for each company we're getting the company's name, we're getting the company's clutch profile URL. So you can click on this particular URL and go to the company's clutch page if you want some more information. You also get the company's website, which is what we're looking for from this particular output CSV. You get the company's tagline, the company's description, the rating on clutch, the number of reviews that they have on clutch, their phone number, what's the minimum project size in terms of money, what's the hourly pricing, what's the company size, and the location. So we're looking for this particular column, which is the website column. So we're gonna copy this, all the rows from this column, and click on the plus icon to generate a new sheet. And let's paste this here. I'm gonna bold this, and this becomes our input for the next module. So our next module is company LinkedIn Finder input. So our step 1 is done. We've used this particular module and our output has been domain. Next is our company find company link URL from company website. The module that we'll use is company domain to company LinkedIn Finder, and this is again a module inside Data Chroma. So we'll go to Data Chroma and click on modules. We'll click on LinkedIn and find this module called company domain to company LinkedIn profile finder, and click on documentation. So the output file that we'll get from this particular module are these. The input file happens to be a Google Sheet. So we click on use this module button, and again give our module a name. So we'll call this SEO agencies clutch company LinkedIn Finder. And for this module we need to supply our LinkedIn session cookie. So let's go to linkedin.com. We'll close this one. Let's right click somewhere on the page, click on inspect, click on these two arrows, click on application. Under cookies, click on linkedin.com and find this value corresponding to LIAT and copy this value. We'll paste this value on the Notion doc because we're going to need this for other modules also. And let's go back to the form and paste this value under this field, LinkedIn session cookie, and our next field happens to be Google Sheet URL. So since we want to use this particular column as our input for the next module, because now we have the company's website and we have the company's name, but we want the company's LinkedIn profile, because from that we'll be able to find the employees in that particular company and then find out their email address. But our next step is to find out the company's LinkedIn profile. So we're going to slide this sheet or the tab to become the first tab on this particular sheet, and then click on share and copy the link. Make sure this sheet is the configuration of this share happens to be that this sheet can be read by anybody on the internet. So it's a public link. Click copy the link once you've made those settings with the share icon, and let's paste this link here under the Google Sheet column name. Let's copy the column header and paste this here. Specify the number of Google Sheet rows to process. So there are around 40 rows here, but you can either enter the number 40 or you can just leave this field empty, and by default it will pick all the rows in that particular column. And the next, again, you'll enter the email address where you want the result file to be sent to, and next you click on next. We'll click on run to proceed to the next step, to launch the module. And uh, in this particular step, what the module is trying to do is it's trying to read the company's domain, and it's trying to find out the LinkedIn profile attached to that particular domain. So once we get the company's LinkedIn profile, the output that we're looking for is the company LinkedIn profile URL ID based. So there are two types of LinkedIn profiles for each account, or even per people profile on LinkedIn. One is the profile URL that has the company's name in it, and the other has a certain ID. So each company gets a company ID inside LinkedIn, and we're looking for the URL type that has a company ID. So once this model finishes and the results are there, I'll show you both the types of URL that we have and why we need the ID based URL in the first place. So we need this because now we're going to convert the LinkedIn URL to a Sales Navigator account URL. The reason we're using Sales Navigator and basically converting a LinkedIn URL to Sales Navigator URL is because we don't want to prospect one by one. We want this process to be to be scalable, and we want to find the founders of, let's say, 1,000 agencies in one go. How do we do that? We do that by using what we call as the custom list option in Sales Navigator. And for that, we need to convert LinkedIn URLs into Sales Navigator URLs. So once we have the next step, or the result of the previous step, let me show you how this is done. So our module has finished the operation. Let's click on result to download the file, and we have the company LinkedIn URLs, SEO agencies. Let's go to a sheet. Let's click on plus to create a new sheet. Let's click on file, import, upload, and company. Just drag this email, this CSV. Click on append to current sheet and import data. So we have the result file with us, and for each company website we have the company's LinkedIn URL, and we have also the company's ID based LinkedIn URL. We also have the company's Sales Navigator URL. So our process is already done here. So for this URL and this URL points to the same company page. If you click on this particular URL, or if you click on this URL, you will be taken to the same page on LinkedIn. So it eventually redirects to the name based company page on LinkedIn, but we need the ID based LinkedIn URL because this is what converts into a Sales Navigator URL. So if you'll closely see the difference between a LinkedIn ID based URL and a Sales Navigator URL is the presence of /sales between linkedin.com and /company. So if you don't get this URL in this particular module, what you can do is you can just convert the /company to include this /sales, and convert the LinkedIn company URL to the LinkedIn Sales Navigator URL. Anyway, now we have our LinkedIn Sales Navigator URLs from here. Let's copy this, and this is the LinkedIn Finder results. Let's click on new sheet, and this will become our input for the next module, which happens to be a Sales Navigator list append. So we have found the LinkedIn company's LinkedIn URL from the company website, and we've also converted the company based LinkedIn URL to the ID based LinkedIn URL to Sales Navigator URL. So we didn't have to convert because the module gave us the result. But in case you don't find this here, you can use this particular URL type and replace. So I'll show you how it's done. We'll select all this and replace /company with /sales/company and replace all. So now this becomes equivalent to this. So that is how you convert ID based LinkedIn URL to Sales Navigator based Sales Navigator LinkedIn URL. So we have also converted the ID based LinkedIn URL to the Sales Navigator based LinkedIn URL. And our next step on this process is adding these Sales Navigator accounts to an account list in LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So let's go to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I'm click on this Sales Navigator button here. So by default it won't show up. It's a paid subscription inside LinkedIn, and you have to subscribe to the Sales Navigator subscription to be able to use it. And inside Sales Navigator you'll see this feature called lists, and the idea is we're gonna use the account list from Sales Navigator, and we'll add these companies to our Sales Navigator list. So these companies are the same as our initial companies, just that from Clutch we found their website. After finding their website, we found their LinkedIn using the company LinkedIn Finder, and from LinkedIn we also found their Sales Navigator. Next we'll use their Sales Navigator input to add them to a particular list, and I'll add them to an account list. I'm going to click on a create account list and create a new list here. So let's say I'll name this list as SEO agencies California, and I want these accounts, all these companies, to be added to this particular list. So one way is you can open up these accounts one by one. Sorry. And save account and save them to a list, but this becomes a very manual process and you can't scale it to, let's say if I have 1,000 companies that I want to add to a list. That's just not possible by doing this method. So I'm gonna unsave this account, and what we'll do is we'll use a module inside Data Chroma, and we'll go to Sales Navigator under the platform section. Sorry. And find the module named Sales Navigator account list append, and click on the documentation tab. Next you'll find the documentation and the steps on how to use this module here, and what this module will do for you. The idea is this module will take all these URLs and add them to a particular list, let's say this list that we made just now. So let's click on use this module button, and let's set up this module. Let's give this module a name, SEO agencies account list append California. Let's enter the session cookie. So we saved a session cookie previously. It's going to remain the same because we haven't logged out of the system. So I'm just going to copy this. Otherwise you can go right click on the page, click on inspect, click on these two arrows, click on application, under cookies click on linkedin.com and find this value corresponding to LIT and use that. So I'm just going to paste the session cookie here. Next we need to feed the Google Sheet URL. So let's call this sales nav account list append, And since we want to use this as the input for of this sheet, we will drag this tab to become the first tab on this sheet, and then click on share and click on copy this link. Again, make sure that the sheet is publicly available using this link, and let's paste this sheet here under the Google Sheet column name. Let's copy this column and paste this here. Now next you need to enter the list name. So you need to enter the list name where you want these accounts to go. So we give made a grammatical error here, so let me just redo this. And I'll copy this name, and under this form, under the field list name, I'm gonna paste this list name here. Make sure it's this field is case sensitive, and the name you're pasting here or entering here exactly matches the one that's here inside Sales Navigator. And next you'll enter the number of Google Sheet rows to process. So under so if you have 40 accounts here, 38 accounts here, either you can either write the number here or you can leave this empty, and it's going to process all the rows in that particular column. So I'm just going to leave this empty and click on next. Let's click on run to launch this module, and you will see these accounts getting added to this particular list. Currently it has no account in this list, and it already has added around 10-11 accounts. It won't take more than 1 minute. This module is very fast. So going back to a doc, we have converted the LinkedIn URL, the company, sorry, the LinkedIn URL to Sales Navigator account URL, and next add Sales Navigator account URLs to a Sales Navigator account list. So next, we've already added. So next we want to add these Sales Navigator accounts to a particular account list, and we already ran the module. So let's go back to the module and see where we are. So this module shows that it has added all these URLs, all these accounts to the list. So let's go back to the list, and currently we don't have any accounts here. So let's refresh this page, and you should see all the accounts here. Voila. So we have 37 accounts added to this list, and these are all the companies that were there on that particular clutch page. So if I command F here, and so you'll find the company here again. So we've gone from seeing these companies on a clutch page to having these companies added to our Sales Navigator account lists. And why we've done this, because we'll use this list as a custom list in our lead search export. So let's go back to our Notion page and see where we are. We have added these accounts, and the module that we have used is and output that we have from here is accounts added to an account list, Sales Navigator. Our next step is using this account list as a custom list to in lead search export process. So inside Sales Navigator, you'll see this very useful feature called creating a search based on lead or account search. So we'll create a lead search, and the idea is, we will use this feature called custom lists. So you'll see your list, showing up here. So once you select this list as a custom list, what you're telling Sales Navigator is, I want to find out, let's say, founders or people from these particular companies. So our account list uh, consists of these 37 companies, which are the SEO companies that we scrape from Clutch. And when you use this as the custom list, you're essentially telling Sales Navigator that I want to find people only from these companies. So the roadblock that we had at the start of this process was, we wanted to find founders, or let's say president or CEOs from these companies, but there was no way to find those people for each company at scale. You could, you can go to the domain, find their LinkedIn, go to the LinkedIn and find these people individually one by one, but that process isn't scalable. This way, we're able to find the exact people from each company at scale. So we have already, fixed the companies here, still telling Sales Navigator that, I want to find out X type of people from these companies, and now we'll define who we want from these companies. So let's say I want to reach out to the founders. I'm just going to enter founder and click on search, and you'll see that, we're able to find founders from these SEO agencies that we found on Clutch. So this is how you create a search based upon a custom list inside Sales Navigator. So that becomes a next step. So we've used this account list as a custom list. Next, we're gonna export and scrape this lead search. So now we want to export all this data. What we'll do is we'll go to Data Chroma and click on modules. We'll click on Sales Navigator and find this module called Sales Navigator Lead Search Query Export. Click on documentation, and you'll find the documentation here. You'll find the steps to use this module, and what is that, that you'll find as the output from this module. So the idea is, now you want email addresses of these people, but before that, we want to scrape all these results and, get a CSV from this particular process. So what we'll do is, uh, we'll go to this documentation page and click on use this module, and let's give this module a name, SEO agencies California lead search export. Let's enter a session cookie. Next, you need to enter the LinkedIn Sales Navigator lead search query URL. So we've made the, lead search here. We've put the title as the founder, and we've also used our account list as a custom list in sales in this particular search. So, we'll copy this particular link. So once you've made the search and you're, satisfied with the kind of results that you have here, you will copy this search and paste this here. Next, you'll enter the number of results you want to scrape. So if you leave this, field empty, it's gonna scrape all the 56 people. But for this video, let me just scrape the first 5 people and show you what we get from here. Next, you'll enter the email address and click on next. You'll click on run to launch this module, and this module has started. Let's go to our Notion page and see where we are in this process. We've used the module Sales Navigator lead search query export, and the output that we're looking from this module is first name, last name, and the company domain. So it's currently scraping the fifth row or the fifth person on this search, and let's click on result to download the result file. We'll call this SEO agencies found California founder results. We'll go back to a sheet and create a new sheet. We'll import this result file here and upload a CSV. Click on append to current sheet and click on import data. So for each, so you'll find a couple of fields for all these LinkedIn profiles on this CSV. You'll find the person's name, the person's last name, the person's headline. You'll find their LinkedIn profile. So you can use this LinkedIn profile to, you know, send them a request, send them a message, or use the profile to go on the profile and research about the person way better. And then you'll find the emails from summary tab. So all these people have a summary on LinkedIn, and if they have mentioned their email address, you'll find that email address extracted under this column called email summary. Same goes for external URLs. So this person have happened to mention their angel.co URL. You'll find that URL extracted under the external URLs from summary column. You'll find the full name, Twitter contact, country, job location, and a couple of things. So what we're looking for from here is the first name, the last name, and the person's company domain. So the current company happens to be gr0, and we'll take the domain column here, and this is what we're looking for. So we'll copy these three columns, create a new sheet, and call this the email finder input, and paste this here. So you essentially have the founders of these 5 companies here, and next, so we have exported and scraped the lead search results to a CSV, and next step that we have in the process is to find their work email address and verify them. So you can use tool like Snowf, Hunter, find that lead, Apollo, etc., and find their email address. And for verifier, you can use never bounce. So you'll feed this particular CSV. So you'll download this as a CSV and name this email finder input, and input this either in one of these tools and find their work email address. And once you have the work email address, you can then reach out to them via cold email. So this is our process. So let me write the next steps here. Export, create, and export lead search, find work emails, cold email. So this is our process. We went from creating a search on clutch.co, finalizing our accounts or the companies that we want to reach out to, finding the domains, then finding the LinkedIn profile, from that finding the sales navigator profile, adding those sales navigator profiles to an account list, using that account list as a custom list and lead search export, and creating the audience and exporting them, and then finally finding their work email addresses and then launching the cold email campaign on these people. So this is the process that we follow, and if you have any questions, put them down in the comment section, and I'll answer them. And if you like this video, give this a thumbs up. And that's it. Thank you.